Testing. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the forum. I'd like to welcome everybody here to Farmdale Elementary School for the CD14 or Council District 14 Candidates Forum. This forum is sponsored by the Sereno Chamber of Commerce, Body Action, Sereno Coordinating Council, Hillside Village Property Owners Association, and the Rose Hills Homeowners Association. I'll give a round of applause. We'd also like to thank Principal from Farmdale Elementary, Teresita Saracho de Palma, who is back here for hosting the forum here at Farmdale. I'd like to start by introducing the panelists who are seated over at this table on the side from the community, and I'll just go in the order that we have here. We have Ozzy Lopez, who's an Sereno resident. Elena Ching, who is a Rose Hills Homeowner Association member. Alba Yanez from the Elephant Hill Advisory Task Force. And Joanna Allen, Hillside Village resident. I'm going to go ahead and read some of the rules and that are governing the forum. Okay, all candidates will stay within the time specified for each aspect of the debate. All questions will be asked by the moderator, myself, or a panelist. Candidates will be asked to begin right about as soon as we're done doing this. Materials. Candidates have been provided materials, tables where they can place their marketing materials. I see some tables here and maybe there's some outside. It can be shared by all candidates. No posters or signage will be allowed inside the auditorium, as these can be distracting. If you would like to provide lawn signs, you may provide them once the debate has ended, and they must be provided as attendees leave the auditorium. Small stickers or buttons will be allowed and can be provided to attendees. Filming, Joe's right there. If you would like to film, you will be able to set up a tripod at the back of the room or at the side where it's out, and Joe is clearly out of the way of the viewpoint of everybody who's here. Candidates and attendees are expected to conduct themselves appropriately in a professional manner. Candidates must be respected and allowed to answer the questions. Any unruly or disruptive behavior will not be tolerated. Violators will be asked to leave. No posters or electioneering is allowed in the hall. And that LAPD officers will be present just in case. I don't think we'll be there, but that's going to be there. We'd like to thank the candidates for agreeing to participate in this debate. Candidate Jose Huizar is here. Candidate Gloria Molina agreed to be here. She has not arrived as of yet. Candidates Mario Chavez and John O'Neill were invited but have not confirmed their participation. Candidate Nadine Diaz mentioned she would not be attending. Okay. Okay. Candidates are supposed to draw straws in order to determine their initial responses. At this point, we won't draw straws. I don't think we need to. And the candidates were, if candidate Gloria Molina does show up, then we will proceed with that. And then they will respond to questions in rotating order. And candidates will be asked to answer questions in English. Is there anybody who speaks only Spanish in here? monolingual Spanish, alguien que nomás hable puro español? That we could, okay, we have a couple of people. Is there anybody that, I don't think we have a translator that I'm aware of. I haven't even asked that question, but if you could translate? Okay, can we arrange for that? They're back here. There's two gentlemen. Or Julio también. Okay, ellos pueden traducir, okay? Si tienen pregunta, ella puede traducir para ustedes. Okay, so that's taken care of. The forum will be divided into two different rounds. In the first round, panelists composed of stakeholders from different community organizations will ask questions, or the panelists that are seated here. They will ask 2 questions apiece that will be responded to by the candidates. A timekeeper, Anthony Manzano, is seated right over here. He's going to keep track of the time, and I will inform the candidates when their time is up. He has some signs that say when the time is up, and we move on to the next candidate or the next question. Round 2 of the forum, audience members will submit cards with their questions. If anybody has any additional cards, you can bring them up here to Eddie Santillan. We will pick the questions and then read them on the microphone. And the questions will be limited to 30 seconds. I don't see any questions that will take over 30 seconds. And the responses from the candidates should be 1 minute in length maximum. And then at 8:25, we'll conclude with final comments by the candidates. And that's it. We're going to go ahead and begin with the panelists to ask 2 questions. We'll start with Ozzy Lopez.
Good afternoon, everyone. Councilmember Weezer, thank you for coming to the debate tonight. My first question for you folks is on economic development. Economic development has become a major focal point in the city of Los Angeles over the last few years. What is your economic development vision for the community of Sereno as it relates to our major corridors of Alhambra Road, Eastern Avenue, and Huntington Drive?
How much time do I have? 1 minute. 1 minute.
1 minute.
Well, thank you. And before I go on, I do want to thank all the organizations who put this event together. The organizations represented here are active each and every day in our communities, and I want to thank you for improving the quality of life in our communities, and thank you for hosting this very important debate with myself. The last few years, we've been focusing on improving commercial corridors throughout Council District 14. Here in El Sereno, we focused on Huntington Drive. We brought in over $500,000 to improve some of the medians, to put in more bollards from the sidewalks to make it safer to cross the street. And we recently applied and received $400,000 to fix all the sidewalks on Huntington Drive with CDBG funds. Those are Community Development Block Grant funds, which are federal dollars. And that's what it takes. It takes time to improve these commercial corridors, to improve the physical improvements that the city, quite frankly, has been lacking in. But I think it's going to take a partnership with the Chamber and with others to really speak about how we're going to continue the momentum. A few years ago,
Thank you. Thanks. I don't mean to be rude, but we're going to keep to that 1 minute. And he'll be, Councilmember Rizzo, Anthony Manzano will be having the signage. So he's giving like 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and then stop. So I'll stop you when it comes to that. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Let's go on to the next question. Ozzy, or do you want to rotate it? Okay, Alba Yanez.
Many of the hillsides of Northeast LA have been spared residential development because in the past, developers were not interested in building homes in our neighborhoods. As we saw in the last real estate boom, high-end, single-family housing developments have nowhere else to go except for our undeveloped hillsides. As evidenced by many recently proposed projects, they're poorly planned and would destroy our iconic hillsides. Beyond the zoning policies we have in place, what kind of innovative strategies will you put forth to both protect our hillsides and increase health by expanding active recreation opportunities in our park poor neighborhoods?
the last 8 years since I've been in office, I think we have successful. We've been very successful in protecting the hillsides of El Sereno. In fact, somebody at our recent hillside, our Elephant Hill hillside victory, that we preserved those areas with the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Somebody said that the west side may have their beaches, but El Sereno has its hillsides. They're beautiful hillsides that must be protected. And a few years ago, we passed and the council adopted the northeast side hillside ordinance that will allow us to protect our hillsides even further. I think that did a lot to protect the hillsides, but at this time now we should also look into see if we do something similar like Mount Washington did with their specific plan, and to see if we could update our hillside ordinance given the changes that have occurred over the years. Ascot Hills, again, we not only want to show, preserve areas like that, but what we've been doing recently with community members is improving it little by little. We got the little shade area, we got more benches, more trailways, and once people get to see that, see how exciting places like that will be, we will be able to preserve more hillsides.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we'll have Elena Ching.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Council Member Cesar. My question is about illegal dumping. What would you do to reduce and assist in cleanups for residents, especially on the hillsides area of our community and business corridors?
Thank you. The fact of the matter is that the city, on a systematic way, doesn't have enough funding to pick up some of our illegal dumping. What I've done is I've raised penalties for those individuals that we catch dump those big piles of trash in areas that are not looked upon. What we also did recently as well, for the first time ever, we put some cameras actually here in El Sereno by Lombardi in a hillside where there was continuous dumping. We would go by, pick it up, and then they dump again. We put some cameras in a hidden area, got the license plate. It was the same individual who kept doing that, and we prosecuted that individual. Now those cameras are used throughout different areas. In Council District 14, we move those cameras around to different places where there's continuous dumping, but also through my Clean Communities initiative, we've hired several organizations who hire at-risk youth to go and clean those areas immediately. So if anybody calls my office, within 48 hours, we could pick up those areas that have been dumped on. We've got to do better. The city doesn't have enough funding overall, but through my Clean Communities initiative and these cameras, I think and the penalties, we're lessening the amount of dumping here in our local community.
Thank you. Joanna Eller.
Homelessness continues to be an ever-increasing issue in our community. On one hand, community residents are working hard to maintain and clean their neighborhood and parks. And on the other hand, these same parks and streets are being occupied with tents, numerous shopping carts, trash, and broken furniture. What are your thoughts on this issue, and what have you done to address it for the benefit of all involved?
Arroyo Seco Park was one of those areas in our local neighborhood that had a number of homeless individuals staying there with tents. We recently cleaned it about 2 weekends ago, but we need to have a better approach and a different approach. And it's an approach I've been using in Skid Row. I recently only started representing Skid Row as of 2 years ago, and I did something different from just going there and cleaning up the streets. I asked the social service providers for the county to come out and ask the individuals there if they need any assistance. And we put a number of people in shelters. We're giving them mental health. We enrolled them in Medi-Cal and other things like that. We also, for next year, I'm asking to put more money in the Bureau of Sanitation so that we could clean up these camps more often. And because right now we only have 3 crews that are responsible for cleaning up camps throughout the city, and it takes forever to get there. And so with providing them better social services before we clean up, having more Bureau of Sanitation crews to come out to clean up, I'm going to propose that in next year's budget. I think we will be able to clean up crews more often, clean up these areas more often, but also do it in a humanitarian way by asking the individuals if they need any assistance. It's very different from how we've done it in the past.
Thank you, Mr. Rizal. Ozzy Lopez.
Thank you. Councilmember Weezer, this issue relates to vacant Caltrans homes and lots. The 710 extension continues to be a hotly debated issue. However, as the debate on whether or not to extend the 710 continues, what steps will you take to require Caltrans to maintain its properties so they are not a blight in the community, and thus continue to reduce the home value of those living next door to them, especially in the surrounding communities that border the cities of Alhambra, South Pasadena?
Well, let me make this clear. I've stated my position after listening to you that I'm opposed to the extension of the 710 freeway. And disrupt historic communities and as a supporter of preservation. And also, it would disrupt over 300 families who currently live along that corridor. We need to support the tenants by our current law and our ordinance provides exemptions for state agencies or other agencies that we do not have our same code enforcement applied to them. We've got to change that here locally. And secondly, we've got to change some state law that may prohibit the city from enforcing more of our codes. So we got to do more to change our codes here locally. It hasn't been looked upon, but that's something that I hope to focus on when I'm re-elected.
Many residents in El Sereno and similar communities, by necessity, don't own cars and are dependent upon bus lines or their bicycles to get to work or in school or walk. What is your vision for improved walking and cycling conditions and access to public transit here in El Sereno? And would you advocate for increased spending for active transportation in future transit finance measures?
Yes, absolutely. I'm known in the council as one of the strongest supporters of complete streets, where we prioritize every form of transportation. And we prioritize cars for decades over people, over pedestrians, over bikes, over every other form of transportation. We've got to change that. We're changing our neighborhoods that we want to shop locally, we want to walk, we want to feel safe doing it. But sometimes the conditions have been such that we don't allow that because of prioritization of cars. I'm hoping that instead of building the 710 freeway, that we would get the gold line that goes up to East LA, come to Cal State LA, and then up to Pasadena. That's a much better use of our dollars than the billions of dollars it would take to build a freeway. But also, a very unique way of extending that accessibility is our DASH system. Our DASH is hugely successful, in demand, but we haven't really looked at that comprehensively about where those routes go. Can we reroute them? At my request and another council member, we're looking at how we reroute those routes to see where they're most needed now and to expand them. And we're looking at some state funding right now to expand more DASH bus routes that are sorely needed in communities like this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Being that this forum is held in the school, what efforts would you or have you done to improve the education system?
Well, I'm very proud of my 4 short years that I served on the school board, and I believe that even though I'm a council member now, I still have a responsibility to work with our education officials, because after all, the learning, kid needs to come to school ready to learn, and it doesn't end or stop at that gate. We are one community, which is very different from what some of my other opponents believe we should be doing with our education system. So to me, I believe strongly in whatever's in my jurisdiction, working with our schools, for example, more crossing guards. We have cut back the number of crossing guards throughout the city. We need to get our crossing guards back. We need to make sure that our kids are walking to school safely and promoting more programs like Safe Passages, where people come out during the time when kids are coming to school and leaving school, just to make sure our kids are walking to school and leaving school safely. And our after-school programs, all our after-school programs have shown hugely successful, especially in communities like ours, about how do we make sure they succeed at school and how do we make sure that they have things positive to do right after school. We have the lowest crime rates in our communities that we haven't seen since the 1950s, but a lot of that is because we're investing in our young people, and we should continue to do that.
Thank you. That concludes, for the time being, the questions from the panelists. If we run out of questions from the community, we can go back to the panelists. They have additional questions. We're now going to start with the questions that have been submitted to us. And if you provided your name, I'll read your name. If you didn't, I'll just go ahead with the question. This one's a 2-part question. Number 1, are you against and you may have responded to this somewhat, are you against the SR 710 tunnels, regardless of where the entrance portals are located? Yes or no?
Yes, I'm against that. I've stated my reasons why.
Okay. Part 2, if against, what would you do to make sure they never get built?
Well, one thing I did when I was on the city council is that for the first time ever, the city was on record opposing the extension of 710. I passed a motion, I think it was co-authored by our current mayor, Mayor Garcetti, and also Councilmember Ed Reyes. So the city of Los Angeles is on record opposing any extension, and which was historic because we've never done something like that. When I was on the Metro board, as the board voted to move forward with their environmental impact report, there were only 2 no votes. That was myself and Nigerian from the city of Glendale. But I hope as we move in the future, and when I get reelected, to continue to work with the advocates who are opposed to this, but we need to coordinate with other cities who are also opposed to it. There's a very strong coalition to do that. My staff has been attending meetings to do that. And we have to look at to see what moves the FTA makes, but we're going to be there every step of the way to think about legally, political activism, or any other way that we stop this boondoggle with billions of dollars of wasteful dollars.
We had another question. If we have a repetitive question, we're going to pass it up. And this one was, he just answered it about the position, his position on the City Council's resolution citywide. What is happening with the development of the hill across from Farmdale? Why do the developers always want to change the zoning? And this brings up the issue every time for residents to fight this over and over again. Leave the zoning alone and build only one-story residence. Sounds more like a statement than a question, but I think the question was, what is happening with the development of the hill across from Farmdale that you're aware of?
Yeah, there's a proposed development across the street here, and the developer I think it's been the single-family homes. Anytime any developer comes to my office, I ask them to go out to the community and get support. One of the things I do not like about this development is that it would ask for a waiver of the hillside ordinance, which I help author and implement. So any proposal to waive the hillside ordinance would not be supported by my office. And I'm not sure where it is in the community process, but I've always wanted, whenever there's a project, we'd like to see it come back with support from the community. And I'm not sure if it went to the neighborhood council or not, but whenever it comes to my office, I'm going to take the community's lead on that.
Thank you. The next one is from Therese Hernandez Cano. 65 years ago, the largest, mostly Mexican-American displacement of families occurred in Chavez Ravine. Do you know how many Caltrans homes today are expected to be vacant if Caltrans continues with evictions through illegal rent hikes? Your knowledge of this important issue in El Sereno will determine who the better candidate is to represent us.
I think I said earlier there's about 300 families or 300 structures that would be displaced, and that is quite a bit. I know that for Chavez Ravine there was probably over 1,000 families that were displaced, and 300 families is a lot. And so that's what we got to do everything to protect them and ensure that they are dealt with accordingly. But we don't even want to start thinking about any type of displacement. We got to just stop the extension of the 710 freeway. We got to make some changes here locally to our laws to support our tenants, and we also have to work with our state legislative elected officials that they change the laws at the state level to empower the tenants more. It's just a disgrace what Caltrans has done and the way it's treated them. I mean, we wouldn't, when you talk about the landlords, I mean, there are rules, the book right now, on how landlords can and cannot act, and Caltrans is exempt from a lot of them, and they've been able to get away with a lot of things to mistreat our tenants in our community.
This one is related, but it's very specific. Do you think the Caltrans rent increases are fair?
No, I don't. You know, I'll tell you why. Because from my understanding, they are using rent increases or evaluating what types of rent increases they should do on a manual that was adopted in 1980. And a lot of things have changed, and they haven't even upgraded that manual. So what are they working on? You know, it's something that it was adopted a long time ago. So at this point, I don't think they're fair because I don't think they're using any type of measurement that will give them good reasoning as to why they're raising their rents. And particularly, like, if my structure wasn't well taken care of or landlord wasn't responsive, I have the right to withhold my rent. And Caltrans is taking a different approach to that. So no, I don't agree with their rent hikes.
Thank you. This next one is from Joaquin Bustamante from the El Sereno Stallion Youth Organization. We empower children to have and sportsmanship as well as good academics to keep youth off of our community, off the streets and away from gangs. Our concern is that a neighboring organization for youth was shut down. Our concern is that this doesn't happen to us or our youth organization.
At one point, I thought the mantra for my campaign was going to be, what about the Bobcats? It's just a different approach that I would take. The Bobcats were dismantled in an unincorporated part of East Los Angeles, and the approach that was taken was not a good one, not giving them a place to play. If there were issues that were perceived or real, there's a way of working it, but you don't take a whole program away from young people who are doing positive things in our community. I fully support all the youth programs in my community, whether it is in the Bow Heights Wolfpack, the Stallions here in El Sereno. There's a new one in Highland Park that we're supporting. And this gives our young people positive things to do. And what I like most about it is that they have a certain academic level that they have to reach in order to do that extracurricular activity. But we're teaching them leadership skills, we're teaching them sports personship, and we're teaching them those things that they can use in their life later on, no matter what they decide to do. So it's just a shame that the one in East LA doesn't exist anymore, and I will always support the Stallions here in El Sereno.
Thank you. What, if any, plans do you have to improve our public bus system?
Most of our buses around here are run by the MTA, but there have been instances where some seniors have asked that we reroute some of these routes, and we've spoken to MTA and we've done that. Every year, MTA looks at their routes, and some of them have been cut, and we've been able to re-implement some of those through our advocacy. But what's in our direct purview is our dash system, and so I'm looking forward, like I said earlier, to see how we could extend and expand those dash routes and also reroute them right now, because we've been using the same ones for a very, very long time. So dash system is under my purview. I hope to expand them and improve them and advocate wherever I can on MTA lines. Any of you who do have issues with any MTA lines, you could always work through my office so we could work with the MTA to improve them. But the other thing I want to do as well is that what we are responsible for is some of the bus shelters at the bus stops. And for some reason, some of the bus stops in my district haven't gotten the proper shelters, and we're taking an inventory of those, and we want to make sure we provide the shelters for shade and benches at all of our stops. So if you see any, please let my office know as we're taking that inventory.
Thank you. This one is related, but it's a little bit different. It's related to the Caltrans issues and the tenants. Joe Cano, if elected, what options or steps as a council person could you take to help the Caltrans tenants in their fight for fair treatment against illegal rent hikes and illicit landlord practices by Caltrans? I guess because you explained what you have done, what can you do now?
Yes, like I said, for the future, I hope to change local laws which exempt Caltrans or some other public agencies from our own code enforcement policies. But also, like I said earlier, we have to get state officials to do some changes in state law to allow that. So we have to work hand in hand with our state officials to make that possible. And that's one of the first things I hope to look at and put in a motion when re-elected. There are other council members that may have the same issues, whether it's Caltrans or otherwise, or they may be properties in their areas that are looked upon by some other agency other than the city. But we have to be able to say, hey, look, whether one house is privately owned or one's owned by another public agency, we got to be able to apply the same rules and apply our local code enforcement rules, and I hope to do that after I'm re-elected.
Thanks. Here's another one. We called the city aquatics to address the issue with the pool from El Sereno at El Sereno Park. The water is too cold. The manager refuses to heat it up and close, I think it says close the curtains. I believe it says that. Why do we have to go to other places to use their facilities when we have one in our community, but we are not listened to?
I'm so sorry that happened. Please let my field staff know, and also that's something that you should immediately call my office about, and we could talk to the manager there. Paul Habib's here, my chief of staff. Raise your hand, Paul Habib. Issues like that the water is too cold or otherwise, those things should be attended to immediately. So please let Paul be my chief of staff know.
Thank you. When are you planning to redo our sidewalks? Remove existing trees that have damaged our sidewalks and replace with a different type of tree. Please remove, these are like several. Please remove liquor stores and recycling centers so close to our schools. Drugs and drug users use these premises to hang out.
Thank you. The city put $0 into fixing sidewalks, and so what has happened is instead of going out and fixing a sidewalk that's broken, they go out and put that black asphalt thing on it, and that's just to prevent the city from getting sued for litigation purposes. We spend $6 million each year on trips and falls in the city. Right now, Councilmember Englander and Buscaino are working on proposing a long-term plan for that. But in the interim, what I've done 2 years ago, I started the Clean Communities Initiative, where we actually consolidated a number of funds available to my office, and we are now fixing some of the most egregious sidewalks in my district. So if you have a sidewalk, please report it to my office, where we have an ongoing list. We go to the worst ones first, but we're fixing a whole lot more sidewalks that have ever been fixed here in Sereno. And for the large commercial corridors, we're doing things like applying to get the funds necessary to do all the corridors. Like in Huntington Drive, I told you, we got the $400,000 to do all of Huntington Drive, which we'll start soon. And Eastern, we will be applying for some more funding, although we did spot areas on Eastern, the Malaman area, I know we did that one recently. And so we're getting to them. On the recycling facilities, let my office know which recycling facilities are causing problems. We will look at all the code issues and be able to work with you. There are certain recycling facilities that need to be upgraded or improved.
Thank you. And the phone number to the office is 323-226-1646.
Pretty good.
Homelessness continues to be an ever-increasing issue in our community. What are your thoughts on this issue, and what have you done to address it for the benefit of all involved?
I addressed homelessness earlier in what we're doing, but I do want to also state that also just in terms of getting more funding for the Bureau of Sanitation to have more crews to clean them up more often and asking people on the street if they need help. We want to make sure that we set a better policy for homelessness. The county is primarily responsible for providing social service dollars to our individuals who are on the street. A majority of them have mental health issues, and there's very little money that's been allocated for mental health support. The county has to do a much better job in providing those dollars to provide mental health services. Our new supervisor, Hilda Solis, we've had plenty of conversations about this, and I think she's taking a whole new approach about how they will allocate some of that funding. And we're going to do more to provide more permanent supportive housing, which is a model that has worked to provide individuals who really need help. Instead of just telling them to go to different areas for help, you just take them to one place, and in that one place they will get all the services that they need. So that's a different approach to homelessness than what we've done in the past.
Thank you. What are the chances of getting a nice shopping center and family restaurant in El Sereno?
The chances are very good because in this economic upswing, we now have come out of a recession where things were tight, people did not want to invest. But as people are looking, believe it or not, throughout our neighborhoods on the east side of Northeast LA, they're looking to add neighborhoods like El Sereno to provide those services. There's been at least one, a couple of places, individuals who want to open up a restaurant here on Huntington Drive, and so that family restaurant, along with some that already exist there, we're looking to help those. I brought over a business source center that is based in Bow Heights, but serves both El Sereno and Bow Heights to help our local small businesses with anything they may need. So either existing businesses or new restaurants. There's a lot of interest in sprucing up Huntington Drive with the types of businesses we would like to see here. Like I said earlier, we're improving the physical areas of Huntington Drive with new improvements, and eventually we'll bring in the investment. We also brought in not too long ago facade improvements where my office is to going west, and we need to do more facade improvements as well and provide that type of funding to upgrade the existing buildings.
Thank you. This one appears to be directed to community in Boyle Heights. First and Marina property, if you could change the metro to change the land to a pocket park, would you, instead of housing?
Yes, I would. There's a property on First and Marina in Boyle Heights that Metro, at the urging of one of my opponents, is now being built for some housing that is although I support this type of housing, it is not the the right location because we built that gold lane to increase retail. It has very little retail, more pedestrian activity. It's going to be dead space in an area that could have additional pedestrian activity. The local community wants a pocket park, and it's something that I'm very familiar in delivering. Here, the park that we delivered, the Arroyo Seco Playground on Caltrans property, the community has been wanting a park there for a long time. My office was able to negotiate a 25-year lease to build a park there. In Highland Park, where we're going to open up another park in a brownfield, an old gas station that had been sitting vacant like that for decades. We're going to open up a park this weekend. So I'm very supportive of opening more parks, and that would be a great location as the evergreen jogging path is there, and people could jog, go to the park, have exercise equipment, and it's a great location for that. But unfortunately, the board at Metro continues to move forward to build that housing there.
Thank you. Do you have a question? We'll still take questions if you have them. We'll still take them. We're starting to run out. What are your current plans to arrive at consensus in regards to high-density residential units given the lack of water in our near future? And that's Ms. Acosta.
Yeah, one of the things we have to do is improve our public infrastructure in the area. We have some of the oldest pipes, water pipes in the city because of where the east side developed soon when people are coming out of downtown. Some very old infrastructure. We have to invest in that infrastructure first. And quite frankly, you know, the neighborhood that we created here in Sereno is built more for the type of single-family homes that we built, the type of serenity that we built, and to protect our hillsides. So I am not supportive of building additional high density in the area. And so in terms of protecting it from the infrastructure, first we have to see that high density is even welcome to the community, and secondly, move to improve our public infrastructure. We had a couple of pipe breaks in my district, one on Townsend and Eagle Rock, and we asked DWP to look at all the other pipes that are in danger of bursting, and we fixed it. We caught a few, and we're in the process of moving down into other parts of my district to ask the DWP to look at all our pipes in the area, the main pipes, to see if we need to replace them.
Thank you. This one's from Maine T. Basic city services like street sweeping, sidewalk repair, and tree trimming have been discussed at length in previous forums. What is one of the new program initiatives that you would like to start in the upcoming term that would be beneficial to the residents of El Sereno?
But doing more basic services is what we have to focus on. And my Clean Communities Initiative, while we've been doing that, we pick up more trash, we're fixing more sidewalks, we're trimming more trees, we're taking down graffiti, and if we take down graffiti within 48 hours, we pick up trash within 48 hours, but I think we need to have a systematic approach on how we do that so that local council members not having to fend for themselves as to where they find the money to do this. We've been successful in Council District 14 in doing that, but we need a more systematic approach to do that. Our mayor, Eric Garcetti, has said and also ran on the platform that he is focused on basic services. He's going to release his budget soon, and hopefully working with him and the council, we'll get a more systematic approach to dealing with basic services.
Thank you. Are there plans to add badly needed franchises on Huntington Drive, like Starbucks restaurants?
There are no plans to, not that I'm aware of, for franchises, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you. What is your position on getting El Sereno Park upgraded and renovated?
We recently allocated, I think, up to $400,000. How much? $1 million. So we got that final money. And we're going to upgrade El Sereno Park. We did this at Guardia. Thank you. We recently did this at Guardia, where we did all the sidewalks around there, new basketball courts, put in barbecue pits, resurfaced the basketball courts. We did the soccer fields. And that was through an effort for some funding that we were able to allocate. El Sereno, with $1 million now, is really going to get a facelift. And I know a lot of you have been asking for bathrooms on the field, so those are coming. And it's step by step, but one thing that I'm most proudest of in my 10 years as a council member is that every park in my district has had some type of improvement. And we've been very successful in Council District 14 in getting funding. And it's a battle. You have to fight for these fundings and find it and be active. But this $1 million now for El Sereno is going to go a long way to upgrade it. And I'm very proud of the park situation in Council District 14. We've not only added hundreds of acres of new open space, but every existing park has gotten some type of improvement. Thank you.
Charles E. Madrid, how about stopping the mudslinging?
I'm happy to stop the mudslinging. If you guys have noticed my campaign, we've been, and even at forums, I think my supporters have been respectful, and that's what we've asked them to do. And if we're not respectful, if it gets into mudslinging, the issues are not talked about. And it's about talking about the issues. In most debates, I want to talk about the issues. I want to debate people's visions. I think our vision that we've had for Council District 14 has been a very good one. We've collaborated with community leaders to get a lot done. And the last 4 years of my term, I think we will get much more done as well. That collaboration has paid off. So we're hoping to keep it that way. And at the end of the day, when I need to correct facts, I correct facts. I point to any of my opponents and they mistake facts, I correct them on their facts. And that's been my approach. But I'm very happy if my opponents were here participating to have agreed with them that we shouldn't mudslinging.
Thank you. Our streets are disgusting. Where are your people who are supposed to report conditions to your office?
Our streets are disgusting. My people are right there. It's Bobby, that's Susie, that's Julio. Eric used to be with me. In all seriousness, call my office. You know, if the streets are like small trash that's thrown around, we do have a group called Clean and Green that comes to Huntington Drive to clean because again, the city doesn't provide enough services to do that. We're looking to extend that to Eastern this coming fiscal year, beginning July 1st, to get Clean and Green to come out to Eastern and clean Eastern. If your street gets particularly dirty, we do have the street sweepers that go. The street sweepers do not go in large commercial streets, but in smaller residential streets they do. If your street is particularly dirty, it gets dirty a lot, every year we rechange and reroute those street sweepers. Please talk to my staff and we will get the street sweepers to go through your street and make it a permanent cleaning. The only one drawback is that people ask for the street cleaners, we get them there, and they say, hey, we have to move our cars once a week, and there's no parking, so there's trade-offs with doing this. I just want to point that out up front.
Thank you. We have a question on toxic health concerns, and I just wanted to ask whether, so it would be clarification for Mr. Huizar, is this question that's headed up with toxic health concern, is that a Caltrans home or not Caltrans? Caltrans? Okay, so it's good for you to, I just want to make that clarification. Related to Caltrans home, who do we contact to come and inspect the health issues that are taking its toll on our family? Number one, mold on bathroom ceiling, cracks in the interior and exterior of the home, raw sewage seeping into the water table, walkways and driveways cracking and uplifting, foul odor coming from vents at footing from home. I think it says that. Called building inspector and health department, and they refused to inspect the home.
Again, it's a Caltrans property, and like I mentioned earlier, what I want to do is change city law about how much enforcement. I think we should have more purview over these properties. We should be able to have additional enforcement powers. Sometimes our building and safety department may be pay too much deference to Cal State, and we've got to change that by changing local law to do it. Good. Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. This one's from Ike Aquino in reference to El Sereno Park. I coach that and am an advocate for El Sereno Park. El Sereno Park has been known as an unsafe place to be. What has your office done to improve the safety conditions at the park for kids and families? What future plans plans are in place to better El Sereno Park?
Well, we have the $1 million that are coming, and one thing that we have asked when we do see an uptick in any crime is that we have LAPD provide additional patrols. We used to have our General Services Department, police, that would be able to go on park property through the budget cuts that happened a few years ago. Those no longer exist. They merged with LAPD. I'm talking right now with our local captains about having LAPD go onto the park site more often, because they are always outside the park in case there's an emergency call or something else. They really don't patrol inside. So we're in talks right now to do what the General Services Police Department used to do and go on-site inside the park. I think if that is successful, we'll see more LAPD inside the parks. And we mentioned earlier the $1 million that are now coming to us.
Great.
What do you have to say about the missing money?
What missing money?
DWP.
Oh, DWP?
DWP?
47?
Oh, no, I don't know, there's no name on here, so.
Disregard?
I'm just asking, does it
have no money.
clarification? Okay. In other words, if he's not clear what the missing money is for, so. In November of 2013, Council Member Labange mentioned for the Department of City Planning to review the small lot ordinance and its guidelines in response to the ordinance being used to build developments that have disrupted the character of existing neighborhoods, among other issues. While this is still under review, our hillsides are left vulnerable to exploitation by developers whose projects could set dangerous precedents in CD14, where the hillside ordinance and the small lot ordinance will soon meet in two proposed large-scale projects. What is your stance on the small lot ordinance?
Well, it's currently going through the process, and I'm not quite sure if it's true that it is affecting the hillside ordinance in a negative way. But I would support us adopting a small lot ordinance, because there are a number of lots that are being subdivided. You create a lot more density in certain neighborhoods, but you also start creating out of character development, where you have single family homes and then all of a sudden you are building different types of houses on smaller lots. It hasn't been as much of an issue in our district as it has been in Labange's district and Koretz's district. But whenever that comes to our plan committee, which I chair, I'm hoping to look at that and move it on to council.
Do you know when Big Saber Market will open?
No, I don't. We were happy to support them in making that redevelopment. A few years back, when there was a lot of issues with food for less, there was the produce wasn't fresh, there were falling tiles from the ceiling, it wasn't kept up. My office, I called over to Food for Less Corporate. We spoke to the vice president, and then they came and they actually, after my office worked with them, we invested, I think, how many millions of dollars, and they upgraded the facility, and now they're much different supermarket than what it used to be when I was first elected. And I was very proud to have worked with Food for Less Corporation to improve that store. And this one now, we're going to have two good supermarkets here locally, which is good news.
Thank you. All candidates were asked about receiving campaign contributions from developers. Your answer was not received. Would you answer the following questions? Have you sworn off campaign contributions from developers? And have you returned all campaign contributions from developers you may have already received?
The answer was not received by whom, and who was it asked by?
It's not clear. It just said all candidates. I'm assuming this was asked at another forum, maybe?
Yeah.
But it's not clear.
The answer is no and no.
Answer is no. You stated you are opposed to the 710. What specific alternative transportation projects do you support?
The light rail. We need to extend light rail. We've with Measure R that was passed, we're building a lot more light rail, and I'm very happy with the light rail that we're doing so far, but I believe that we need to provide more public transportation as opposed to providing more congested roads. And we invest more in our roads like the 710, which just get as much congestion. We have to look for alternatives, and that is light rail. So I mentioned my proposal that we've been working with others, and they gave me the idea, which I support, which is to go from the East LA light rail system to Cal State LA. And in fact, the population of Cal State LA in the near future is scheduled to grow. There's going to be a bigger need for people to come to and leave Cal State LA. And a perfect opportunity to do that would be light rail, and then go up to Pasadena. That's a better public transportation option than the 710.
Thank you. Just want to let everybody know that, does anybody have a question, any other question that they'd like to submit? We have 4 questions that were directed to candidate Molina, and since she's not here, we're not going to read those. We're now going to go back to the panel and entertain any additional questions that they might have prepared. It looks like Luana's ready to start off.
Well, because you only gave me 1 question last time, so I can ask 2. You put in a left turn lane on Huntington Drive to go into the Shopwise. What's the chance of getting a left turn lane to go into Food for Less on Huntington Drive going towards downtown?
Okay, if that is something that we can do, we're going to ask the Department of Transportation to study it and then come back and see if we can do it.
Yeah, I don't know why there's not one there.
Okay.
I mean, it goes into a major market like the other one. You put it into that market.
And the one that goes into the new one, that was a struggle with the Department of Transportation for years. They were telling us no, 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 but we actually worked with them to make it possible, explain to them the new shopping center that's coming, the increased traffic we may see, so they agreed to that. So we will work with the Department of Transportation to see if that's possible there.
Okay, my other question is, there's over in University Hills, there's a huge lot that used to be part of the refinery, and it's just a big rock pile now. It's a brownfield. It's at Worth and Mariana. Is there any way that can get developed and, maybe put in a little local market and a mini mall, and, we don't want a big Walmart or a Home Depot, or we want it to be residential. I mean, there's housing from Cal State LA, our side, and everybody's on the other side of the valley. We have to go into El Sereno or South Pass or Lincoln Heights to do any shopping.
When I was first elected, and before the recession, there was a proposal to build a Home Depot there. And in fact, that was moving forward. And then they did some soil studies, I understand. And as a brownfield, they found that it would cost them a lot more to build something there than they expected. So that slowed down. Now with this upturn in the economy and the recession being over, someone might be interested in building something there. I haven't, it hasn't crossed my radar again, but it'd be something that I'll start encouraging people to look at to see if it could be developed on now. What would you guys like to see, the residential or retail? Retail. Retail. Okay.
And my other questions were for the other candidate, since she won't answer them.
Ozzy Lopez.
Councilmember, collaborative coexistence. Typically, a neighborhood or a community will advocate for the immediate needs of its local community. The 14th district is viewed as one of the largest districts in the city of Los Angeles, with multiple communities who are all in need of services and resources. Finding the balance to the provision of services is key. How will you manage the financial resources available to you in your district with balance, where every community obtains its fair share?
Yeah, with the initially, so I would hear this a lot where, sometimes people say, well, Paul Heights is getting some investment more so than El Sereno, and a lot of what happened there was really CRA dollars. When the Community Development Agency was around, they were able to get millions of dollars that would otherwise go to other agencies, tax revenue, increment financing, and it got reinvested there. From what I understand, from what I was told, and I'm not sure how accurate this is, initially when that planning area was being proposed, El Sereno didn't want to be part of it. So there was additional funding for the CRA there. But I think if you look now, aside from the CRA, in the types of investment we've been making in all my district, here in El Sereno, we've gotten quite a bit of investment with the Valley Great Bridge, the Soto Street and Mission Road Bridge, things we've done at Ascot, Huntington Drive, the improvements we've made there, the parks that we are improving. I think you're seeing that financing from across my district is being equalized, other than when Boyle Heights had the CRA money. I try to advocate for as much as I can throughout my district. I would say that the needs down in El Sereno and Boyle Heights and Highland Park, Samaritan's Highland Park, are greater than, let's say, Eagle Rock. But overall, I try to look across my district to make sure that we're equally putting out funding as necessary. El Sereno has gotten quite a bit of improvements for financing in the last few years.
Thank you. Alba Daniels?
According to research by the Trust for Public Land, the city of LA spends much less per person on parks and open space than most major cities in the state and the nation. As a result, the city has less accessible park space overall compared to these other large cities. Unfortunately, communities like El Sereno suffer the consequences and have less park space. What are you prepared to do to look at that issue in particular of spending more of our city's budget on parks and open space?
Well, part of the problem we're in this situation is because we rely on our general fund to improve our parks. And what a lot of other cities have done is found other revenue streams so that you're not competing with public safety, competing with all the other basic services. We got to find additional types of revenue streams to improve our parks, and other cities have done that. Here we rely on our general fund and something called Quimby funds. Quimby funds are whenever a new development is created, they put aside a certain percentage to improve parks in the area. What has happened though in areas like this where there really isn't a whole lot of new development, there's very few Quimby funds. I'm undergoing a review right now so that we make those Quimby funds a whole lot more flexible so that all parts of not only that immediate area gets a park, but it's spread out a little bit more, and how we can use those Quimby funds as well. So we're under review of our Quimby funds. We have to find a new revenue stream from other sources. There's a lot of state money we get that we currently dedicate to different types of things in the city. Perhaps we redirect that to parks. But that's something that has hit me closely because I've been having to find different sources to build our parks. For example, York, that we're opening this weekend, was a state grant that we put together to get that state funding, Proposition $47, to make that possible. But like I said, revamp and our Quimby funds, find additional new revenues, try to get away from general fund because we're always constantly competing with other things in the city that are just as important.
Thank you. Elena Chin?
My question, Councilman, is about emergency preparedness. It hasn't been mentioned in any of this forum. What are your efforts in assuring the community is ready for a disaster?
Yeah, well, we have some people in this room that are CERT ready, like Anthony and others that have been working to prepare our public. And one of the biggest conversations in the city right now has been our buildings, whether or not our concrete buildings are ready for an earthquake. And one of the big things we've changed now is in the 1960s and 70s, there's certain residential construction that was used that was not as safe. We've asked building and safety to go out and identify those buildings to see if they need to be retrofitted. They're currently doing that survey right now. I forget what they call the type of structure, but we're doing that as well. But I think we need to support the community-based CERT programs and expand those as much as we can to be prepared in an emergency. And you know, like our CERT folks friends say, we often say, you never think it's going to come, but when it comes, you know, it's a surprise. And so I've been supporting CERT in anywhere I can, and anything I can do to support them, I will.
We're going to go back to community questions, and we're almost ready to wrap it up. This one's from Lisa. How can you help pocket gardens, basketball, etc., dog parks in empty Caltrans spaces?
It's a very good question because one of the things that there's a huge demand from our communities now is more dog parks. But when you ask our rec parks to do more dog parks, they're opposed to it. They're opposed to it because they think it's going to cost more money to maintain, and where they ask us, where are you going to get the funding? So my staff right now is working with Rec and Parks to change those rules and to make dog parks more easy to create. There's a bigger need throughout my district for more dog parks. A great location, but I'll take the, I don't want to say what I want in an area, I'll take the community, what they want, but a great location would be next to the Arroyo Playground. But if we could either expand that park for additional usage for kids or whatever it could be, or we could create a little area there for dogs as well. But one of the things we're struggling with right now is with Rec and Parks who don't want any more dog parks. But that's a huge issue of mine since I am now a dog owner, and I'm out constantly looking for places to go take my dog. But we need to work with Rec and Parks to make it easier. They're not in favor of dog parks right now, but we're going to change that. But on the Caltrans property, that's a great location to put one here in El Sereno or anywhere else that you guys come up with. You guys tell me, and we'll work on it and get it done.
Thank you. There's much recent mention about the USC Biotech Corridor, which will run along Valley Boulevard and will connect USC Health Science to the USC Health Science campus to Cal State LA. What can you tell of this vision, and how will you protect residential areas from these types of projects?
The idea is that since we have the USC Medical Center and General Hospital up here, and then we have Cal State LA, and in between there we have a whole lot of older warehouses on the south side of Valley. There's been talk for a very long time to create a biomed corridor so that people that we build office space, research space, little retail there, the research that goes on at USC Medical Center and Cal State LA, and we can kind of integrate all of that. The city of LA has been very supportive of this for the past few years. One of my opponents was a former supervisor, I won't give a name, but she said that recently that she's been working on this, but if you talk to stakeholders who've been involved in this, she hasn't supported it for a very long, since its inception. And now she's saying she's supporting it, which is a good thing. But what we've got to do is ensure that the Hillside Village is protected from any type of increased traffic and increased additional activity. But I think overall, the types of jobs that would be created there would be tremendous boon for the area, and also for a lot of people around here who are looking for jobs. It's a tremendous economic opportunity for all of us.
Thank you. We're now approaching the end of the forum. We can take one more question apiece from the panel if you have them. So if you do, I'll start with Luana.
Well, my questions were for Melina, so I really didn't write anything else down.
Thank you. Ozzy Lopez.
I do have one final question. Crime ranked 120, El Sereno's crime ranked 123 out of 207 here in the community of El Sereno. So El Sereno was ranked 123 out of 207 communities in Los Angeles as it relates to crime according to the LA Times. The El Sereno Valley crime rate continues to be average, property crime is low. However, the current trend indicates that there is going to be a rise in both. With warmer weather on the horizon, what will you do to reassure us, the residents, that the trend does not increase but rather continues to decrease?
Well, since 2005, crime has dropped dramatically in this area. We have some of the lowest crime rates that we haven't seen since the 1950s in this neighborhood, which is very good news, both for property and violent crimes. There has been an uptick in property crimes recently, and one of the things that I'm hoping to do is to bring this successful Summer Night Lights program that we've had in other areas that keeps parks open later and give more activities for our young people to do. And that has shown in other areas wherever we have this program that around that area during the summertime, crime drops because our kids are not out there doing things in the street or otherwise. They have something positive to do with positive adults in the park. So we're hoping to bring that. We're hoping to work with Barrio Action as well to see what types of other summer programming we can do. We have Barrio Action. I want to give credit to Tammy, who has always advocated for more youth programming in the area. She says, look, I don't care if I get competition here. We want it here because it's good for the area. So we need to provide more youth programming. But I think Summer Night Lights is an initial step, and then see how we can support Barrio Action to bring other summer programming here as well.
Thank you. Alba Yanez.
compared to some of the other areas in your district, we have very few nonprofits operating in El Sereno, and that really impacts us when it comes time to advocate for improvements or to stop bad things from happening. What are your ideas for changing that?
Well, it's an issue I've been thinking about for some time. We don't have as many, and like I said, the few successful ones that we have, like Barrio Action, like I said, Tammy's not afraid of bringing others to the competition or whatever it may be. It's like it's good for the community, it's good for everyone. In the past, we worked with family source centers to see how they could start planting seeds in different areas so that those organizations can start sprouting out. I'm looking to see that whatever needs there is here, to do a needs assessment, and then see how we can tap into some who are able to provide those types of services. But the needs assessment is key and critical. I did one first, initially for Northeast LA, I did one a few years ago, and I found that the crime was highest in Highland Park, and that was where we had the least youth services available of all the areas. And so we were able to bring in more resources there because we had that data, we had the information, we had the type of information we needed, like what types of services, so we brought those in. I think that needs assessment is, we're going to do one here for El Sereno.
Thank you. Elena Chin?
What is the vision you see for our region of Los Angeles for the next 10 or 20 years?
The vision that I have for our region is that we have more economic development. The Huntington Drive, for example, has got tremendous potential the way it's set up. You have traffic that comes through here, good or bad. You have people who see different storefronts every day, come from the San Gabriel Valley, and also people who want to shop here more locally. And so I'm looking forward to working with the Chamber of Commerce to see how we can not only support local businesses, connect them better with the business source center that I brought in, but also to see what other types of investment we would like to see. Like I said earlier, we begin with putting in more investment in the physical infrastructure. Other areas that I've worked on, for example, like York, we put some physical improvements there, and then the investment started coming for more businesses, but I think economic development is very, very important. The good news is, the most important thing, crime is down. We are protecting our open spaces with the Northeast Side Hillside Ordinance. We've got Scott Hill, we've got Elephant Hill, we're doing that. We're protecting the integrity of our hillsides and our residential areas. And so the future, as I see it, is economic development and invest more in the basic services like sidewalks and things like that. So I hope to do that in the near future.
Thank you. We have one last question from the community, and then we'll have closing remarks from candidate Lisa. Last question. There are 2 marijuana dispensaries along Valley Boulevard. Are you in support of them? And what will you do to stop any more from developing?
There's 3. I was one of the first proponents in City Council that we need to do a much better job in controlling the medical marijuana dispensaries in our city. Although I believe in the use of medical marijuana for patients who truly need it, what we found is an over-proliferation of these dispensaries throughout my district. In Eagle Rock, for example, at one point we had 20 in Colorado and Eagle Rock Boulevard. So through my efforts, we were able to push that back, and now through the efforts of our voters, we have Measure D, which allows for only about 120 to exist in the city. These have a right to exist so long as they are not near sensitive uses like schools and parks and churches. And I believe one of them on Valley Boulevard is a Measure D compliant, meaning they have the right to exist there. The others don't have a right. The good news is that the city attorney has a much better process in going after those that are illegal dispensaries. In the past, we were told we have to go through due process and it takes months, if not a year, to shut them down. Now the city attorney has created a process and it's much quicker to shut down the illegal ones. And the illegal ones are the problematic ones, because those are usually the fly-by-night ones where they get unsavory characters to hang around this place and perhaps cause problems in the neighborhood. So I think one of them has a right to exist, and the others, it's on the radar of the city attorney to shut them down soon.
Thank you. Candidate Weezer, you have 2 minutes for closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much. And again, I want to thank. Okay, start over. Thank you very much for coming out, and I want to thank you for being here. The organizations that put this event together are some of the leading organizations that are making a difference in the lives of people here in El Sereno. And when I came in and I drove in, it reminded me of the type of work we've been doing together. When the principal here told me when I got elected back in 2005 that parking lot out in front was dust, and that kids had a higher rate of asthma at this school, and that whenever it rained, people couldn't park there to go to the park or go up to the school. We got to work right away, and now it's a paved parking lot for us, I know. But it's those types of projects, I think, that have been promises in the past that were never delivered, that we are now delivering for El Sereno. That's not the only project. The Valley Great Bridge, after 20 plus years of promises by the city that would be fixed, and plans were there for decades, we delivered on that. On the bridge on Soto Street and Mission Road, where you have like 5, 6 different streets coming together, one of the most dangerous areas and not that safe for pedestrians. Now we're not only rebuilding that, but we're creating a little park there for the area. Elephant Hill, one of the most problematic areas for this. When I first was running, everybody was talking about Elephant Hill, but we resolved that for the community, and now we're keeping it an open space. Ascot Hills as well, there was some question whether that would remain open space for the community as a passive park. We've not only done that and determined that, but we've created trailways and things that we can do to go up to the very top and see one of the very few areas in the city where you can get a 360-degree view of the whole area. We've delivered on those projects that have been problematic, if you want to call them, for this area. Promises that were made, big or small, like this parking lot or the bridge or Ascot, whatever it was, working with you, we've been able to do that. And that's why I want to finish in the last 4 years, so that we can continue to work on these types of projects. But as I work these last 4 years, one of the things that are most important to me are making sure we provide those basic services that the city has failed to create systematic approaches to. We want to fix those sidewalks, trim those trees, and I think with the Clean Communities Initiative and other things we've been doing, we'll get to that. So I hope I could count on your vote March 3rd, and to me it is, to be quite frank, a bit disappointing that none of the other opponents decided to be here, because El Sereno is a very special community, and it only will remain special if we have responsive local government, and I hope to do that with you in the next 4 years.
Thank everybody for coming out, and remember to go vote on the 3rd of March. I'd like to thank candidate Weezer for, he got a workout today, for coming, and for the panelists, as well as all the sponsors. Everybody be safe. Good night.
I'm going to have a Weezer cupcake.
Over there? Yes. You want me to keep this?
I just because
Get a wet one.
This one is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay? Oh, you want that one too? Here. Take another one.
2? Okay. Is that you?
2 it is.
No, it's
It's different now. Thank you, B. See you around, right? Thank you. Very nice. See if I can make the next one. Saturday. Be off. Sunday, I got one Anybody wants to help, right?
The two are asking me, bring me one. No, la viejita es mi mamá y la otra.
You have a...
Yeah, I got a tray. Here I am. Okay, I can't carry all of it. No, I don't like yesterday. Well, put it back. The vanilla.
Vanilla? I want chocolate.
Where's right here? You got a sign. Hi, time counted. Listen, we're gonna have some without it might be a good place, it might not be a good place, but we need house meeting fundraisers.
All right. I'm getting this chocolate one before anyway. I've been eyeballing that sucker since you walked in.
Okay, I can get a few people out there.
Grandma, there's one without frosting. Take that one home.
Yeah, the Friday morning is training. The Friday morning is that's the first aid inside. This is how to do utilities, how to do pressure, central rescue, medical. Yes, sir. Largest report. Monterey Hills. All ages, all capacities,
Bring them back. Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't find it.
Good.
Where's Lisa?
I see that. Paper, the paper there. They do that.
I got my camera still going. I got everybody eating. Look at that. You're all busted.